Okay, so we only did 2 halachos from chapter 6 yesterday about destroying things that the names, the holy and pure names are proclaimed upon. We didn't actually talk about that. Kadoshim and tahorim. So as adjectives for shemos. So like if you just had shemos have kadoshim, what would be your first like go-to understanding, just shot of shemos kadoshim?
Like names that have higher value than like just regular.
Okay, and in what framework value? But like they're more expensive. Like what?
Right.
They're more like related to God. It's like they're more like.
So let me ask a more pointed question.
Okay.
What's the what is there a practical import, like in terms of the calling them shemos kadoshim?
Yeah, you have to treat them differently.
Yeah. So I would have assumed that it's talking about halakhic kedusha, right? But then when you see shemos tahorim, I don't think that names can be tahor like halachically. I don't think you ever have like.
Are you saying name for Tomei?
I don't think you ever have like a written name where you're like, well, this whole thing is like Tomei, but like this name is tahor, or like you got to be careful not to make the name, So then once you see that, so now the possibility is either shemos kadoshim, the kadoshim still is halakhic, and the tahor is some philosophical idea, or kadoshim and tahorim are 2 philosophical ideas. So the question is then. And I guess I'm defaulting to the assumption that it's halakhic because, as we'll see today, he talks about the kedusha of the names, which is like used throughout the perek, and it'd be really weird if you use kedusha in the philosophical sense at first, and then in a halakhic sense. Yeah. So the halakhic sense means you need to treat them differently, right, as opposed to treating them as whole. And then tahor, I think, is closer to what you guys were saying, which is higher value. Yeah, but what makes it in what sense? So I'll ask. But now philosophically, in what sense is a higher value?
Right.
Or maybe value might. I'm not saying you have to commit to the value. I'm just saying that like that's not wrong, but like maybe there's other ways to frame it.
Like they refer to like I guess kadoshim could also be like halakha.
Yeah.
Kind of. So it's like it refers to like non-physical.
Yeah, and I think he even refers to the malachim as when he was at the end of Hilchos Yesodei Torah Daled, he called the celestial bodies kadoshim utahorim.
Oh, celestial bodies.
Actually, let me look. I have a Mishnah Torah here. And so do you, if you want. In Hilchos Yesodei Torah. Oh, I'll do it on the computer so the remote people can see. Yeah. In fact, I'm actually going to close a bunch of windows and then share the whole screen because we are going to be looking at other stuff. Perek Daled, yeah. It's funny because before Shir, I was going to I got here a little bit early today, so I was going to open all the Rambams for you at the right places. And then I realized, and this is not a joke, I realized that like, this is dead serious. I realized that a lot of gain is to be had from flipping through the Rambam to get a sense of where everything is. And the only way to get that is like to do it, I mean, you could memorize it also, like there's systems to memorize it, but so I didn't want to deprive you of that opportunity. But I did get you the Rambams. Okay, so he says in Daled Yud Beis. Nice. I heard you find it. Bisman she'adam misbonim b'dvarim elu umakir kol ha Bruim mimalach v'galgal v'adam kiyotvo v'yira chachmato shel kadosh baruch hu v'chol ha'yitrim v'chol ha'bruim, which is a really good summary of perek of Tehillim, isn't it? That's, I mean, recognizing all the creations and all the chachma from every, Mosif av l'makom v'titma nafshav v'yifma b'sara lehov amakom baruch hu. So then he increases love for God, and his soul thirsts, and his flesh yearns to love the true existence. Blessed is he.
He uses kadosh baruch hu.
Yes, yeah, and one of the things I've been curious about, but I've never actually like asked anyone to look into is who created the term kadosh baruch hu?
Yeah,
it's definitely not synoptic. It might be, for all I know, it might be an Aramaic term in Daniel. Could be. I don't know why I'm thinking that, but yeah. But anyway, where are we? Okay, sorry, I was wrong. So he fears and trembles in lowliness and frailty, blah, blah, blah. When he compared himself to one of the kadosh, great kadosh bodies, the kolkin la'achad mehatzuros hatahoros
Mhm.
hanifrados min haglamim. So that was what you were saying, that tahor seems to be free from, means non-physical. Tahor is non-physical. And then kadosh, though, is what then? Because we often say that kadosh is transcendent above the physical.
Seems like it's more like it directs you toward God, or like
Definitely we use it that way, but I think we have to stick to Aristotelian premises as much as possible here.
okay.
So if you remember the category of the spheres, what differentiated the spheres from the angels and from like terrestrial things?
They're like everlasting.
Yeah, they're everlasting, right? So I think, so do you have an idea of what it might mean kadosh there? Again, our premise here is kadosh literally means separate or different, and then it has the connotation of above. That's why I like transcendent. And yet, but we're differentiating it from tahor.
So right.
Wait, so are we saying that based on what we just said, that the angels are not eternal?
They're everlasting, but what Zev was referring to was the idea that unlike the earthly physical things, which come to be and pass away, which undergo the process of change, they maintain that the spheres are physical, but they're permanent and unchanging, and then angels are not even physical. And by permanent, I don't mean eternal, like always existing. I mean that once they were created, then they last forever. Does that answer your question, or am I missing a question?
No, it answers my question. I'm just more confused based on what you're saying, but not because you didn't.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough.
A physical.
Yeah, we don't have anything like that anymore, so like you don't have to worry about it at night. You know? Yeah, the goggle healing is gonna get you. Yeah.
It's pulling you along inexorably.
Yes.
The opposite of the way you want to go.
Oh. Yeah. So what does kadosh mean in reference to these things? If it doesn't, so again, just to reiterate the question, when you talk about kadosh in reference to God, the assumption is that it means he's not physical. But when you use kadosh and then you also call it tahor, and you are not describing halachic status, then how do you differentiate between kadosh and tahor, such that the celestial spheres are kadosh and the angels are tahor?
Mm-hmm.
Shall I venture something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just means what I was saying, that it means that they're removed from the trends of earthly matter, meaning they are different and above earthly matter, which undergoes change and deterioration and corruption and coming to be and passing away. So they're kadosh vis-a-vis earthly things, which change. So they're unchanging, but then they are matter. They are made of matter, whereas the angels are tahor, means they're free of matter.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Yeah.
But so then we're saying that kadosh things still partake of some kind of. Are we saying that matter is physical?
Well, matter is physical. Yeah.
Right. So physical.
So the celestial spheres are physical. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. See, this is the difficulty here, is that, and this is kind of why I decided to take this up, because we clearly use the terms kadosh and tahor in different ways in different contexts. So I wanted to call attention to the fact that in perek vav, he calls the names kadosh and tahor, and it seems like kadosh means halachic and tahor means non-physical. And then we went here because I thought that he used both the terms about the same thing, but he's using about different things, which ends up being even clearer, that kadosh is above the type of physicality of earthly things that change. And then tahor is even above that, which is not physical at all.
And why don't we refer to God as power?
We do.
We do.
Yes.
Where do you...
In my Elokai Neshama here.
No.
I quoted there's a Gemara in Brachos.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there's Gemara, I'll say it anyway. The quoted Gemara in Brachos that says that the soul, so it's a drasha on a perek of Tehillim, I forgot which one, that has 5 barkei nafshis, and it says that there are 5 similarities between the soul and God, and one of them is that just like the soul is tahor, so too God is tahor. And Avram ben Rambam explained that God is tahor means he's free from matter. Now that's not the only place where we refer to God as tahor. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised. This week's parsha? Anyone know what I'm saying? This week's parsha? Let me see if I can find it while you search your memory banks. I don't know if this is actually true, but I'm gonna.
First and done.
No. Piercing the slave's ear. Let's see. Tahor. Yeah. So this is when they see God, right? In this week's parsha, which often gets drowned in all of the mishpatim, right? So at the end, then Moshe Vayal. This is in Shemos 24:9. Vayal Moshe Aaron Nadav Avihu v'shivim miziknei Yisrael. So Moshe and Aaron and Nadav and Avihu and the 70 elders of Israel went up. And again, it's very easy. I feel like because people remember the end of the story more than the beginning. People feel, I think, that like they associate Nadav and Avihu with their chataim. But they were Moshe, Aaron, Nadav, and Avihu, and the 70 elders. Like they were tippy top, you know. That's at least the plain shot. Then Vayiru et Elokei Yisrael. They saw the God of Israel. Okay, so maybe this is reading too much into it. So they saw the God of Israel. All right, we don't need to do this. No. V'tzachas Raglav, and under his feet, Kamate Livnas Hasapir, was like the I think our school likes to translate it as like the brickwork of sapphire. Etzam Hashemaim L'Tahor, and like the essence of the heaven in purity. Now that's not talking about God. It's talking about, it's associating tahor with his vision of God, and the big machlokas whether this was a good thing that they saw or whether the fact that they perceived God in physical terms is like indicative of badness. But there's got to be, I believe, I know we in rabbinic literature refer to God as tahor, but I'm just trying to think if we ever refer to God in the Tanakh that way, or at least in the Chumash that way. Possible that we don't. Yeah, I gotta keep my eyes open for that. Okay. Anyway, so did that answer? So now going back to Shemos, Kadoshim, and Tahorim. So I think we can say safely that well, let's look at the Shemos again one more time. Hold on. Share the screen for the Shemos. Oh, I thought I was gonna show the whole screen. All right. You know what? I'm not gonna show the whole screen. Too ugly. Sharing this. Okay. Yeah. So certainly of the names. So I guess so if we're going to say that tahor is a philosophical idea and refers to these 7, 8 names, then what makes these names, the ones that are kadosh and tahor? Again, kadosh we understand because you have to treat them with kedusha, but what makes them tahor? You know, we said Yud Vav is definitely tahor because that's referring to God per se, like without any reference to anything else. But like all of these other terms are referring to the creation in some way. So they're not totally divorced from the physical, you know, I don't think.
Well, they're referring to.
Oh, I think I know what you're gonna say. Yeah,
what?
Go ahead.
They're referring to like God's, like the way that God is making the world or creating the world or whatever.
And therefore?
So then that's like those things are not subject to change, I guess.
Oh, interesting.
Oh wait, no, that's
not
not.
physical.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought the direction you were going in, and I'm going to say this even though I don't know if it makes sense, is that that it is talking about God governing the physical, and that points to an idea of God being above the physical. You know?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's what he means. I'm just trying to put together some meaning here.
Yeah. Well, when you say the word like srafim or lefanim, are those words tahor?
Good question. Are the names tahor? That's a good question. Yeah.
Maybe.
Weird. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the other concept that is puzzling to me is calling a name tahor. You know, like what does that mean? And that's why I tried to look for the. I actually tried to rustle up a copy of that Adler chapter I was talking about. In How to Think About God, about the name of God being a unique word, and I couldn't find it in my apartment. So there somewhere. So then I recruited David Fader to lend me his copy. But then his wife had already left for Lamda, so I didn't get it. So maybe I'm gonna get it over the weekend and then we can read about it. But let's just keep that question in mind. What does it mean for a name to be tahor? And I also think we say, we describe on Yom Kippur in Musaf, when we describe the Hold on. You keep on got all, you know, same name God. Don't we, I mean, we say the word tahor. Question is it what kind of mafsor? Mafsor. I just need the Avoda. Is there probably the Roth number because I know my way around that one?
The rock.
The love.
Oh, the rough.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
That's what I
No,
know.
I should be able to find it in here.
Oh, it might be above the like washing station.
Well, the washing, I kind of think. Here, I'll just, just one phrase that we need. And it's not in the touching service. You want different? All right. Now I'm feeling guilty for not pausing the recording, so I'm gonna go back and look at it later. Okay, anyway, all right, let's move on. All right. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next halacha. This is in Yesodei Torah Vav Gimel. Kol hanitzpal lashem milfanav. Anything that is attached to the name from in front of it, mutar lamachako. It is mutar to erase. And I'm just associating to Mishlei this morning, or to yesterday, that I said that taf means children and dripping, and you could see in the two-letter source theory, taf and tafel is related, like the a small thing that is attached to an ikar, tafel, ikar, and tafel. You know.
The llama is attached to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's not Torah.
So if anything that's attached to the name before it, you can erase it. It's mutar to erase it. Kagon lamed mi ladoshem, ubid mi belokim, bakiyot behen. The prefixes. Why? Enan b'kedushas Hashem. They are not with the sanctity of the name. So again, that's now very clear that kedushas Hashem is talking about halachic. V'chol hanitpal l'Hashem me'acharav gon kaf shel elokecha v'kaf mem shel elokechem v'kiyot behen enan nimchakin. So anything that is a suffix, like the cha from elokecha or the chem from elokechem and other things like that, enan nimchakin, they may not be erased. V'harei kishar osios shel Hashem, and they are like the other letters of the name. Why? Mipnei sheHashem mekadesham, because the name sanctifies them. That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
And then the alpha p sheniskadeshu v'asher lamachakan, and even though they are sanctified and it is prohibited to erase them, hamochik elo otios hanitpalos eno loken. One who erases these letters does not get whiplashes of all machinos and makasmaros, but he gets rabbinic whiplashes. So they become sanctified by the name to the point where they're subject to the same itzer, but it's not a deoraisa violation, it's midrabanan.
So doesn't that mean they don't have the same level of confusion?
I mean, yeah, it means that there is a difference, right?
I mean,
They're not different in terms of how you treat them, but the status of the, or the level of the itzer is different.
Well, okay. So deoraisa, they don't have any confusion.
I don't think they do deoraisa. Yeah, I think that's the safe implication from saying that you only get malchus marcus, you don't get malchus.
Yeah, I think that is what that. I think that is what that means.
Like throughout the Mishnah Torah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting also that I mean, again, so this is really where, this is like what was the last paragraph about? I'm blanking. Yeah, Kiddush Hashem, right? So this is I guess the first time we're really getting into an area that could be described as like nitty-gritty halachic minutia, and it's hard to know. Like obviously, the Rambam is not assuming that you can get the whole sugya from this, but it always is an interesting conceptual exercise to see how much svara you can get from the talk of the Rambam, especially because number one, he does expect you to be able to infer cases that he doesn't talk about, like it says in the Hakdama, and this is the Rambam's, essentially the Rambam's commentary on Shas. Like when people are like doing a machlokes between the Rambam and someone else, they're looking at the Mishnah Torah. It's just obviously there you have the whole sugya. So I don't know how much we want to speculate on like, what it means for the shame to be mekadosh the suffix and why not the prefix, but that's the question that we would take if we were taking this up in depth. Yeah.
I want to speculate.
Okay, let's speculate for a minute. Or for more than, yeah.
Okay.
We finished reading it, right? Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So I think the suffix.
Can I just rev you up?
Yeah.
So, because the on the surface, then why should suffixes be different than prefixes? Like they're both not the same.
Right.
And if you want to say like, well, because cha indicates some sort of relationship to God, so you're relating God to something. Well, so can ladoshem, like with a lamed. So what gives? Yeah, go ahead.
I think suffixes are. I'd say they're I feel like all I'm gonna say is just gonna sound like it's gonna sound like I'm just restating what he says.
Up to you whether you want to say it. I mean, sometimes there can
yeah.
be
That they are a modification of the word itself as opposed to like like
oh, I see what you're
an
saying.
additional idea that's imposed on
Okay,
it.
so let me see if this is the same thing you're saying. Is that that well, I'll talk loosely also. It's an attribute of the thing itself, whereas the prefixes are like a preposition, like in relation to something else. Like in other words, it's purely relative term. Like when I say, for example, give the book to Avi, the word "to" is not an attribute of Avi. It's really just describing a relationship, just a pure relationship between the two. But when you say like your God,
That's qualifying.
that's qualifying God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Not actually qualifying.
Not actually qualifying. Yeah. There's a perek in the morning book about what it means, like why you can't even say that God relates to things. But saying that God relates to things is more acceptable than other phrases that the Torah does not use. And so like the Rambam has like 5 categories of relation to God. And he just, that's like the least bad one, I think. Yeah.
I realized from the Rambam that Elokechem is a modifier of Elokah, not a modifier of Elokim.
I think it is Elohim, right? Because that's where the Yud comes from. Elokechem. Right? Because Elokeh is from Elohim. Like you say like, Elohei ha'amim. Yeah.
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 What's the difference between Elokah and Elokim? Is it possessive?
So I don't know. I mean, all I know is that they both refer to God's strength and his midas hadin, and then Elohim refers to the fact that, again, the only explanation I've heard is from Rabbi Cade is that all forces come from God, so that's why it's plural. But I don't know why. I mean, I guess you would be saying, I mean, I guess it's just 2 sides of the same coin, right? Either you call God Elokah, which is the force, or you say that all of the forces come from God, referring to like ascribing them to him. Yeah. Okay. Onward. Kasav Aleph Dal Lamed Me Elokim. If a person wrote the Aleph and the Lamed from Elokim, so the first 2 letters, Yud He from Yud Ke Vav Ke, that's what Yud Yud means there. Eno Nimpak. It may not be erased. See now there's this like underlying tension here. Now that the Rambam is differentiated between Isser D'Rabbanan and Isser D'Oraisa, saying Eno Nimchakim like doesn't fully answer what nature of the Isser is. Let's see if he does say that. Ein Sarach Lomar Yud He, right? Ka. Shehu Shem Bifnei Atma, which is name on its own, right? So why does he have to say it?
That's not one of the 7.
Oh, the plot thickens. You're right. Yeah, that is interesting. Oh wait, I think he explains in the next phrase. I mean, you're good to point that out though. But Bifnei Shezeh Hashem Miksas Shem HaMeforashu, right? It's part of the Shem HaMeforash.
But it's not. It's just the letters happen to be in the Shem HaMeforash, but it's not. It's Yud K.
Okay.
Vav K. So that's not Yud K. That's not anywhere in
It is.
Yes.
Yeah. He got it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but it is funny because you're right. He didn't.
It's the shame of an Atma because it's part of the other thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I mean, that raises the question then: is Hey Vav a shame befnei Atma because it's part of the name? No.
That's not how you write it. Name.
Yud Hey is also a name, like is a name of God.
Yeah.
And because it's like, so it's like both of those, it's not very D'Rabbanan-y, but it's like both of those factors.
Did you say it's very D'Rabbanan-y?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's not it's not one of the 7 names. But
Yeah.
It is a name that refers
It's
to
of
God.
the 7 names, right? Like
it's
yeah.
part of it, but it also refers to something like Vav Hey is just gibberish.
Right.
On its own.
Right.
Which is not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But let's see if he gives us any indication. Aval hakosiv shindalid mi shindalid yud sadi dalid yud beis mi tzvakos harzen nimchak. Right. So I mean that kind of makes it clear. Also, is that it's not that the fact that it's part of the name makes it the name. Is that it is a name, and it's a name that comes from. I mean, I think you can still say what you said. Yud He is one of the names, and it comes from Yud Ke Vav Ke. and that gives it special status. Whereas Shin Daled is not a name of God,
Right.
and therefore it's nothing, and you can erase it. And Harize Nimchak,
You should.
No, it means you have full rishos.
yeah, right. I mean, I was just looking at how he said it before. Einan Nimchakin.
He said, mutter l'machiko.
He said, right, so that's for the full heter, right? But I'm looking for the thing where he says, Einan. Oh, why am I looking at Nimchakin? You're right. Yeah, mutter l'machiko. So I guess, I think mutter l'machiko is the same as Harize and Nimchak. I don't think they're different.
Mhm.
Yeah. Right. So what do we see from here? So the subject of this halacha. So the previous halacha was prefixes and suffixes, is extensions of the name or add-ons to the name. Nitfal l'shem. The subject of this halacha is components of the name. So if the component of the name is a name, then it's usher to erase. And if it's not if the component of the name is not a name, then it's totally fine. So presumably any other combination of two letters from the Shem and Meforash would be fine to erase. Yeah.
It's interesting that Aleph Lamed is like one of the 7,
Yeah.
but Yesodei is not.
Yeah. I also wondered that also, right? Meaning apparently Aleph Lamed is not just a shortened version. It's not Miktas Shem Elokim, which is how I kind of think of it.
Mhm.
Right. That's good observation. Yeah.
Well, I thought Aleph Lamed meant power.
Yeah, it does.
So
Yeah.
what's the difference between that and
Elokah? Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. I gotta see if I can find someone who talks about it. Okay, next. Hey, Shar Hakinuyim. The other, I never found a good. I guess alternative names is a good one because the typical translations are nicknames, which sounds bizarre when you talk about God. Yohan Rahum, and then it also euphemism is another word for a translation of kinoi, but that does not apply here because you're not trying to say it in a negative thing in a positive way. So I think the other titles, the other alternate names.
I think there isn't a good English word that corresponds to the
Kinoi.
meaning of kinoi.
Oh yeah, kinoi stuff from
Yeah,
the Dharma.
it was like a nickname of a nether. It's like,
Yeah.
It was like,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so anyway, the other kinuyim, we'll just use it in Hebrew, Shemashavchim b'hen HaKadosh Baruch Hu, through which God is praised. Now that's interesting. I never noticed that before. Not by which God is called. That's very interesting. I wonder if there's an nafkamina.
Oh. Like,
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't say that.
That's its own weird case, right? Yeah, because that's like a substitute. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so when you say Chanan Barachim, that's not an identifier of Hashem. That's Sheva on his action.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Are there any names of God that are
Well, I guess it got a little bit weird because in the Gemara, it often refers to Hashem as Rahmana.
right? Yeah, but Rahman is just the Aramaic of Rachum.
Yeah, but I'm saying that.
Oh, you mean just as an identifier?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that is, I guess once it is used to praise God, then it doesn't matter if you're using it the derech identification. Yeah. I don't know. Someone's got to compile a list of all names of God in Hebrew. Like from different sources. I'll have that.
Rambam says the whole Torah.
Oh, you're right. And you can't erase any of the Torah. Yeah. Kagon. So Shar Hakim Shemashavakim Ben HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, including HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kagon, for example, Chanun, gracious one, Racham, merciful one, Hagadol, great one, Gibor, mighty one, Nora, awesome one, or terrible one, as they would say in the old English translations. You ever seen that?
Yeah.
Right, because terrible used to mean awesome, and then terrible somehow became like negative. Yeah.
Awesome.
And awful also, right? Awful and was used the way that we said awesome, I think, or vice versa. Yeah.
And awesome also probably wasn't didn't mean like. Awesome.
Yeah. Right. Blew your mind there?
Yeah. Things change. What is
Some kids who want to make their own dialect. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, I can see terrible because terrible was like power, but then I can see how that would morph into power being used in
right, because you use terrible when you're afraid of something, which means it's often a threat.
Yeah. And
threats are bad, so yeah. All right, Neman, trustworthy one, Kana, jealous one, Chazak, strong one, and other things like this. Harzeh, Kishar Divrei HaKodesh, Umutar Lamachakan. They are like other holy words, and it's mutter to erase them. And here we have a prime example of a bad girsa in the Rambam. Mm.
Or that.
Sorry. He in his footnotes. This is in Kafef. He says in the he says like this. The whole makom no. What footnote is this? Am I on the right page? Nope. What halach are we on? 5? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so he says, oh, divrei kodesh, there we go. He says, Ketuv hachi hanut hakol kitvei hayad. So all the handwritten ones have divrei hakodesh. V'gam kitvei hayad Oxford, and also the Oxford edition, which is the one that the Rambam signed off on, the Muga. Berlin, I don't know what the Berlin version is. Okay, fine. Uvenitfas, but in the published edition, the standard edition, those guys, kitvei hakodesh. There's kitvei hakodesh, and because the Rambam later on says that you're not allowed to erase kitvei hakodesh, so then that creates a big stira.
Right.
Yeah.
I see.
Now he worked it out, but I feel like we should read those halachos first. But I just wanted to point that out. Yeah.
I don't know if that was.
Yeah. That he says here, the proper names of God that he listed before, you are not allowed to erase.
Right.
But the kinuyim, meaning Rachum Khan and all that other stuff, are like the other. Here he says divrei kodesh, and it is permissible to erase. So here we emerge with 2 categories: divrei kodesh, which you're allowed to erase, and then the proper names, the names of God, which you're not. But in the standard editions of the Rambam, it says Hare hein kishar kitvei hakodesh. It's like the other scriptures, umutar l'machkan, and is permissible to erase. But then in a few halachos, he'll say that it's usher to erase scriptures, or he'll seem to imply that. Kafka gives his own answer, but I just want to point that out. But that's like an example of like a, and he says after that, he says. V'nimtu divrei Rabbeinu starai, whatever. Turns out that the words of the Rambam are what? Stari. I would say satri, but I don't know what is aleph there. They contradict each other. The herith bibinyas bibinayas chilukehem ustireim. So like other people. Oh, sorry, I skipped the phrase. Ayin. The Hagot Maimonios. The Hagot Maimonios point out this contradiction and goes on to try to resolve the stira. But that's the thing of like, if you have the wrong gears of the Rambam, then it can like lead to wild goose cases for stiras that don't actually exist, you know? So, yeah.
Right. So you said he gives an answer, but isn't that the answer? It's just
No, because the funniest thing is he still holds that there is a distinction, which we'll see. But it's not like a blatant stira, according to the,
you still have to define what the difference is.
Yeah. I have to. I have to get this phrase on here that in my Facebook memories it came up that I threatened someone last year. I was trying to teach him the difference between like the standard editions of the Rambam and these, and I said, never use the standard edition of the Rambam. If you use one, I'll disown you. I'll adopt you and then I'll disown you. You know, and I mean it. Is that you should never touch those, and that's like it's kind of like. You know, if you're on the road and like the only gas station that's in it for miles just has a standard Rambam, then you can use it. But otherwise, like use a good version of the Rambam.
You have to walk 12 mil on the.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Wait,
The question is, can you burn the? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Why can't they just stop printing them? Like, why can't we just have the right? Like, why?
Why can't they just end world hunger? I don't know. Yeah. No, but I mean, I think there is a greater awareness now of the perils of these things. But the problem is, we have 500-600 years, 700 years of Achronim writing on bad versions of the Rambam that there's a lot of Torah on that a lot of halacha is based on. So like we still need them around in order to be able to navigate through sugyas, but like we should use the right ones. All right. So then he says in Vav now, Kli shahaya shem kasuv alav. So a Kli. Now they have a very helpful thing in the footnote there in Vav. You see, Kli. On the left, Kli b'lashon chachamim. Oh, were you not using that before? Okay, sorry. Don't worry, it's both good Ramams. Kli b'lashon chachamim mashma'uto gam beged. So I think when we think of Kli, I always think of like cups and bowls and plates and stuff, or tools. But beged is also a thing, and that's just you'll see why it makes a difference here. Kli shahaya shem kasav alav. So I don't even, here we have no good English word for it either, right?
Yeah.
Like object is too broad. A usable object, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, no, this is not.
Yeah, there's not a good word. What do you say?
Household object.
Maybe. I mean, they don't all have to be household objects, right? Like a sword is also a kli.
Right.
Kotit et makom Hashem v'gonzo. So a kli that has a name written on it, you have to cut off that place and gonzo, which the footnote guy says is kovro oto ba'adam, is buried in the ground. Okay. And by the way, we're only talking here about the shemot that are usher to erase, presumably, right? Because otherwise
You just erase it. You don't have to
you can erase it. Yeah. Even if the name is engraved upon a metal vessel or a glass vessel, the hiti hakli, and the kli was melted, meaning, and he melted the kli, parizeh loke, then he gets malchus. Okay, so let's finish this sentence. Rather, you have to cut off that portion and then bury it. So the question is like, what's the afilu, right? Like, even if you melted it, like presumably you would think that the afil, that melting it would not get malchus, and come out from you do get malchus.
Why would you even think that you don't get malchus?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Cut it,
You're destroying it.
right, and you're still destroying it if you melt it.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
You're not erasing it.
You're not erasing it.
like, it's no longer there, but you
Yeah.
are. You're destroying a flea. Happens to be there.
So that's one approach you could take, right? You could say that like but see, here's the interesting thing also. Sorry, I backtracked for 1 second. So what's the halacha here? The halacha here is you have to cut it off and store it, right? Now, first of all, that just merits some thought alone. Like, why?
Because you can't erase it.
Yeah, why don't you just leave it then?
You're saying as opposed to burying it?
Yeah.
Or like cutting it off?
Yeah,
Just leave
it. Yeah. I mean, like, is that reading too much into it? That you're saying you should cut it off and bury it, or like under what circumstances? Like, do I have a chiyuv to cut it off and bury it, or like,
Yeah.
I think he's saying if you want to destroy the kli, you have to take it off.
But that's possible, but he doesn't say that, right?
He doesn't say,
Yes.
I don't know.
I don't think I was just finding a little bit weird.
Yeah.
About it, because he's just saying you do this.
Yes, this is what you do, right?
Yeah, it's not that in a situation, like he's not specifying a situation.
Yeah.
Right, but what would be the kli? Like, what's?
Good question. So I have a theory, okay, but first I want to point out he also doesn't mention in that first case erasing it, because presumably it's pasha that if you erase it, then you get malchus. So one thing I'm pointing out here is what is the havamina of the kli matachos and kli zakukis? Is the havamina that erasing it would be fine, or is the havamina that you don't have to cut it off and erase it? I think it's the second one also.
Yeah.
So let me show you support for this from reading the whole halacha now. This next case. Okay, you got the name written on your flesh. You may not bathe. The really clever kids of the Tanaim who didn't want to take baths at night would just write the Shem Hashem on themselves and that their parents would obey them. You cannot anoint yourself. You can't stand in a place of filth. I didn't hear what was it.
No, we're putting that in permanent.
Oh, okay. Fine. That's actually a good idea. Yeah. You be doing the dishes or
I don't know.
okay, yeah, that'd be going, right? Yeah, I don't know. All right. Nizdamna lo tevila shel mitzvah. Oh, so anyway, you're not allowed to stand in like a place of filth. Okay. Nizdamna lo tevila shel mitzvah. If you happen to have a tevila of mitzvah, to go into mikvah because of a mitzvah, korek alav gami v'tova. You have to wrap reeds around it and immerse yourself. You have to protect it. Okay.
Wouldn't you then not be able to say
He goes now. Im lo mata, that's how I'm thinking. Im lo mata gami, and if you didn't find reeds, masabiv acharav, then you should look for it. V'lo yahade, but he shouldn't make it cling to him. Kadesh lo yachod, so that it doesn't make a chatzitza, so it doesn't make a interposition. So if it's loose, then you can go into a mikvah as long as the water goes in.
Wouldn't that not function?
Last line is the most important line. Last line. Shlo amru liproch alav elam mipnei she'asar lama b'fnei Hashem aron. Because they only said that you have to wrap it because it's usher to stand in front of the name while naked. So what does that reveal about how, in light of the entire halacha, how would you define the subject of this halacha?
fully.
Proper treatment.
Are you about to swear? Because no.
Proper
What?
treatment of the
Proper treatment of the shame, which is why I think that you have to cut it off and bury it so that it doesn't get mistreated.
Yeah, like you can be like using the Name of Hashem vessel.
Yes, which is why now I think that the melting it down. What would you say about that? Maybe. I mean, I'm not saying like a real full svara, but why might you think that you don't have to remove it from the vessel that's going to be melted down? I guess. Actually, I mean, maybe I'm thinking myself into a corner, because in the end of the day, you still are destroying it. So you're going to have to encounter that halacha about destroying it.
Yeah.
But this does answer the first question, right? About like the question you say, well, why would you have to cut it off? Because apparently we're concerned. We don't just want Shemos Hashem hanging around, like because they might come to be erased or mistreated or whatever. And I think that's very clear from that last halacha, like and to answer your question, you're right. Is that if the water is going over it, it's interesting because like sounds like it might get erased,
Right.
but you're doing it to be literal mitzvah. I think it's the first clue for something that is an interesting category here of like, apparently we don't worry about you going into the in other words, it's not like you have to take any and all precautions to make sure that this thing never like gets erased in any context. Like cut off your hand and put it in a jar, cryogenically freeze it, but this now reflects on lo yirchatz because washing it would be a bizui to it,
Right.
would be
It's
degradation.
more about just mistreating.
Mistreating the name, yeah, exactly.
Which maybe is why melting it down is not proper.
Yes,
You're
this is,
not,
yeah,
you're not doing an action of destroying it. Like
right. You're recycling.
Yeah.
Right, you're recycling it. I mean, that's metal and glass. Is that you're melting it down in order to presumably to make some other use out of it. Not yeah.
That's what this is all about.
Yes, yeah. At the end of the day, it is still considered destroying. In other words, the reason why you think it would be fine is because it's not derech bizayon, but I still don't see why that. And I think you probably have to say what you were going to say also. So okay, maybe what we end up with here is melting it is not erasing it. So from the standpoint of erasing it, then it's not usher. But from the standpoint of mistreating it, it would be usher. And that's where the havamina matkana is. The havamina is you would think that that melting down the kli is not mistreating the shame that's written on it. And you don't have to worry about it being mistreated in the future because you're melting it down. It's not going to be hanging around like it is on the beged. Kamash malan, then you are something still mistreating. And I mean, I haven't defined the svara, but just in terms of the two sides. Yeah. Something to think about further. All right, let's do this. Okay, so that actually brings us to the end of the Shemos Hashem erasure thing. Okay. Then I made a mistake yesterday. I said that this next halacha does not appear here. Okay, so let's read the halacha and then see how I'm wrong. Hasoser afilu even achas derech hashkata min hamizbeach o min ha'hechal o mishar ha'azar loke. Now, I know Isaac is doing Hilchos Shabbos, right? Or are you in Pesach here? Yeah, right. So how do you translate soser?
Destroying.
See, that's how I would have translated it also. But in Hilchos Shabbos, destroying is not good because destroying is being metalkaleh,
Destroying unconditioned to build.
Yes. So I think the better word would be deconstructing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, right. So deconstructing even one stone, derech hashchasa, in a destructive manner from the mizbeach, o min ha'hechal o mishar ha'azar, or from the sanctuary building, or from the rest of the courtyard. Loka, you get malchus. So you see from here also that it's not just that we care about the act of destroying, like the physical act. It's destroying with a certain character. It's derech hashchata. So what would be an example of a type of soser that would be acceptable?
Oh, like put it back up.
Yeah, put it back up, or to refurbish it, or to like improve it, or something that is not a yeah, right. How do you define malchus? Yeah. So then you get malchus when you do that. Shneimar b'avodah zara, because it says about avodah zara, ki es mizbechotam titotzun, you shall demolish their altars. V'katzu lo sasem kein l'Hashem l'kehem, and it says you should not do this to Hashem your God. V'chein hasorif ate hekdesh, which was the other halacha that we read somewhere. Oh, in the Sefer Mitzvos, one who burns the wood that is hekdesh, derech hashkasa. Because obviously you're burning the wood, right? But if you do a derech hashkasa just to like burn it, not for like mikdash purposes, loke, then you get malchus. Shneimar va'asherehem tisrafun ba'esh. you shall burn their trees in the fire. Lo tasim kein l'Hashem Elokeichem. You shall not do such to Hashem your God. So let's compare this halacha to the other place where the halacha was stated that we read yesterday, which is on page 2 of the packet. Oh, no, not page 2. Page 4. Nope. Oh, no, it's at the end of the packet. Sorry, what am I saying? Right, I put it at the end. It's the very last halacha in the packet. See, so this is interesting then. See it? Last halacha in the entire packet. One who is notates, and what not notates like notating a lecture, but
I think
what do we say notates is?
I don't remember what it was yesterday, but I'm trying to remember. It comes up by Thras.
Oh yeah, like carving off maybe. I'm just gonna look at the Chabad.org translation.
Oh, you scrape it.
Scrape? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna check and see what they say anyway, but that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay. Rambam's Mishnah Torah. This is in Hilchos. Yeah. This is the Bechira, right? What chapter? 117. Okay. So they say for 117, we must they say demolish. Okay. Fine. One who demolishes. Yeah, I think demolish makes sense in the pasuk that he quoted of Es mizbuchosem titotsun. Right, you should demolish their altars, not just scrape it. Anyone who demolishes one stone from the mizbeach, or min ha'hechel, or min bein ha'ulam v'lo mizbeach derech hashchasa, lokeh. Weird. First of all, weird that he's duplicating the halacha here. Second, weird that he's using a different verb, right? Here he says notates the other place he says soser derech hashchasa. Here he says mizbeach and the heichal, and between the ulam and the mizbeach. But there he said mizbeach, heichal, and azara, right? Okay, and then loke, you get malchus shnemar nitatztem es mizbechosam lotasem kein l'Hashem Elokeichem. You shall demolish their altars. You shall not do such to Hashem your God.
The azara is just like a different area, and he's not including makom bein ulam on the bed,
Right.
Which is like the.
That's more primary than the azar.
Yeah.
It's not included in the Azar?
Isn't the azar afterwards?
Yeah, it's a lower level of kedusha. The makom bein ulam on the staff is one of like the zones of kedusha.
Yeah, right.
No, yeah, but I thought that was included in like it was.
Why don't you open your maps?
It's in here.
Yeah. Can you go get one also?
Yeah, it's.
But there's no like wrong. Right? So you can just.
I mean, yeah. The mizbeach is in the open courtyard area.
Right.
Boy,
I thought, yeah, and the courtyard is the Azar.
I'm sorry. I mean, I didn't mean to. I used courtyard.
Which, what is?
I think it's in Sefer Avoda. In either in Beit HaBechira. Oh, so it's on page. Here we go. On page 650, 650.
Wait,
Yeah, what is also good.
Avoda?
Yeah.
Pages.
I'm
gonna open the book first.
Shame. Shame. Yeah. All right. Yeah. No, I was thinking shame like shameless Hashem. But yeah. Okay. Oh, this is not going to really show it though, right?
So,
This is not going to show where the mizbeach is. Look on page. Here we go. 655 or 654.
Avoda?
it's a Hilchos Beis abachira.
Yeah, perek hay. Yeah. I think it's actually clearest on the left diagram. So you see the ulam where it says ulam, and the mizbeach is below it.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is in the Ezra Kohanim. So when he said azara, the other place, I assume.
I think azara is referred to as what's going on.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Or is
Well, actually, I don't know.
Let me see if.
It depends on the
Let me
context,
see.
maybe.
Was that?
It depends on the context or
This is
Yeah.
really small.
yeah, it is.
That's crazy. I didn't realize.
So they can also go in the
Oh, so he says here. So the footnote guy here.
Oh, picture is a little more.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
The footnote guy here says that azar is hachilak b'mikdash hamukach mechitza ubo heichal. He says it's the walled off area around the heichal.
Yeah,
But-
that's what it looks like here.
But that's what it looks like there.
The ulam?
No, the Azara is.
Oh,
Yeah, that's weird.
yeah.
But you're right. I am getting bucha from my lack of knowledge of Mikdash architecture.
Yeah, I bet you didn't know there's a chamber of sheep.
I think I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think I've read about the chambers.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know those Chamber of Secrets?
There's never left in chamber of sheep.
I'm just looking at Kafka and see what he says about the Azara. Mishar Azara. Mishar Azara is another problematic word. From the rest of the Azara
Oh, it's no.
with an aleph.
Yeah. I was like, no, it's been like, the gateway.
Oh, see, it's funny here. Okay, so the Sifri in Devarim says, "Minayin lenotes even achas mina hevel mina zev umin ha'azaros."
Oh, no.
Over, which to me makes sense. I mean, not that like I can go based on my common sense, but like plain shot is any part of the mikdash, right?
Yeah,
Like is included in the answer.
Were you reading?
Oh, I was reading the Sifri Devarim.
Oh, okay.
Sifri, yeah. But I'm saying just in terms of the way, like when we read this issue in the Sefer Mitzvos, I assume it means destroying any part of the mikdash.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like to me that makes sense is the Azaros, meaning all of them.
A lot of levels.
Yeah, there's 10 levels of position.
Crazy.
Oh, when you.
There's a lot of footnote on this.
I don't know what I'm looking for. By the, like, around the table. Like, in the evening.
That's where the Minotaur lives. Yeah.
Oh, this got the door.
Oh, yeah, you're right, yeah. Wait, these are the ones.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to assume that he does mean mibein ulam lamizbeach. Yeah, I don't know why he would omit that from Hilchos Beis HaBchira. Unless, okay, here's what, I got it, I think, or at least a clue. Look at the context of where it appears in Hilchos Beis HaBchira.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that if you made stairs, then you can't make stairs.
What's the topic of all the halachos on the page? Or not all of them, but yeah, in the first.
Like building it, like how to like build it.
What's the it?
The Mizbeach.
Yeah, what do you say? The Mizbeach, right? So that's why he's not talking about the Azara.
Yeah.
That this has. I mean, again, I still don't know why he has to bring these two halachos, but this has to do with the Mizbeach, and the one in Yesodei Torah has to do with Mikdash as a whole, with something that the Name of Hashem is proclaimed upon.
Yeah.
I still don't know why he has to bring on both, but like at least there's, and that's why he only mentions mibein so hamizbeach, mikol ha'heichal, which you could say is houses the mizbeach, and then mibein ha'ulam la mizbeach. It's all in relation to the mizbeach.
I think there's a reply.
Oh yeah,
I think so.
I bet he knows.
Yeah.
I think that's about just the ulam.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
nice.
Yeah, I think it's using these Rambams.
Oh, nice. Okay, just run through the time. Tell me the upshot.
What?
You ever comes? That become familiar?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that's about this.
It comes from, I don't know if that's the
I remember talking about the ulam.
Yeah, the Ulam zone.
Yeah, ulam.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's about entering.
Right, it isn't that interesting.
You're right, it's not.
Yeah.
No, there's something else about taking.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the mention here is he's talking about like he's talking about shaping the stones,
Yeah.
like everything. I do think if you're doing it in the hashkafa though,
Yeah.
then it's
Right. Yeah. So part of the procedures of building the mizbeach, but it is mizbeach centric.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's still, I mean, again, it's still anything that he has to codify it twice.
yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so I think this is a good place to stop because next he goes on to how we treat kisvei kodesh, which is the next part of the topic. Okay, so let's stop here for today.
Cool.
And then there is a hold on a second, let me stop this here. All right, see you guys.